Hello, and welcome to today's video. Today we are looking at Blood Courting by Bee's Knees Lacquer. I wanted some of the mysteries from the collection that came with the Nosferatu collection, so I held off for a couple of months for the overpours. This was one of those mysteries. I have a polish by BKL called Always Check the Crawl Space that is sort of like this, but is an orange version. I think the shimmer is much smaller in that one, but they sort of feel like companions. For some reason they do remind me of each other, even though I think on the nail you wouldn't necessarily associate the two. And this one did not disappoint. This is another murky base with a bright element. It just occurred to me that I like polishes that are like porphyry. Maybe instead of everything is tuberculosis, for me everything is porphyry. I don't know what to do with that thought. This is a dusty jelly red base with flakes that move from green to gold to orange to red. I put this on directly after I did my staining test, so if my nail looks vaguely green, that might be why. It has rained here for about 2 weeks and it's only finally starting to get to some sunny spots so I can work with something else. And I couldn't garden either because it was raining, so that's really annoying. You'll be able to see how this polish builds up as we go along. In the first coat, the base is very jelly, so most of the coverage you're going to get by the end of this is a result of the flakes. When I was applying this, I thought I wouldn't want to wear it in one, but now that I'm looking at the footage again, it reminds me of like apple tree blossoms when they fall off a tree and into, say, a river or a pond. So maybe I will wear it in one after all. For the second coat, it does provide us with a lot more color. I think I went in a bit thicker than I normally do, but that is probably just a normal coat for anyone else. There's so many little iridescent flakes now. They are most of the look of the polish, but the base does tint them slightly. I do like this a lot in 2 coats. I think now it has a stronger, more reddish look that seems more like rose petals. You will see when we get to the full hand shots that this lighting doesn't show the shifts really at all, but there are shifts. In the spirit of the flakes looking like petals to me, I've picked out some flowers that I thought were reminiscent of the polish. The first one I've picked out is a hibiscus that is pink and orange, and that gradient just seems very familiar to the look of the polish, especially in bright light. I did an experimental third coat like usual, just to see how it might change. We do get a lot more opacity from the buildup of flakes. This coat very much gives the polish more of a multi-chrome flake look. In this light, the polish is opaque, but you'll see in the full light shot that that is very dependent on lighting conditions. It looks mostly red here with just a touch of an orange shift. For many of the flowers I saw, the orange in them was a bit too light. Didn't really match well, but then I found the African daisies and I feel like their orange is a bit closer. In addition to that, I found the blanket flower, and I think the blanket flower has a red tone very close to the red tones in the flakes for this polish. Next I found Celosia, which looks like tiny little fluffy spears. How could you not like that? They come in all sorts of colors, not the least of which are the sorts of oranges, golds, pinks, and reds that you see in the polish. Because the flakes are not opaque themselves, they cannot maintain the illusion of opacity in the bright sunlight. The flakes move from that red and orange, and then into the gold and green. Mostly I see little green flashes amongst the gold. The gold and green are a bit shy here, but you do get a better look at the color of the dusty red base, and I do think that red does pull just a bit purple. Right now, I'm just very glad this did not qualify for my best of the year video. I had this flash of anxiety when I was editing. I thought, what if I needed to jettison something from my current list? I'd be questioning all of my choices yet again. Thank goodness there is a clear line of definition for the end of the year. But now I'm realizing I am going to go through the same thing every year. Because now I'm starting to realize why it took me this long, I don't know, that everything I'm currently wearing is going to have to be considered for the next list. Should this be stressful? I can't explain to you why it filled me with anxiety. That is 6 months away. I have so much time to think about what I want to do. I am in no rush. In the shade, you can see how much more opaque this appears to be. It almost looks like a multi-chrome flake. As I move around, the orange, gold, and green are much more evident. However, I am catching some reflections in my manicure, so some of that green is from my trees. But there is definitely some green to the flakes. I think here it looks very fall, very fiery. I could definitely see people picking this up as an autumn polish. I do think you'll see the amount of green to the flakes much more accurately inside in the artificial light shot. I don't have a lot of time to talk about the artificial light shot, but I did want to note that the amount of green you're seeing here is much more accurate than what was shown in the shade shot, but the redshift is quite inaccurate. I have absolutely no trouble seeing the redshift while I'm inside. For some reason, this footage just didn't capture it. And that is all for today. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe so that I can poke strategic holes in a pop can and send the chipmunks on an inaugural rocket trip through the tree branches. I do need to preface today's animal clip. Sometimes birds will sunbathe when it's really hot. They will go limp and spread out their wings. I don't think anyone knows exactly why they do this. Some people have theorized that they do this to try to kill parasites in their feathers, but I don't honestly know if that's what they're doing. I'm sorry the footage is rough, but there was no way I could open the door. I would definitely have startled the blue jay. My husband and I call this the derp. Our most frequent derpers are the blue jays, but they're not the only ones. I also love that he has the wherewithal to grab an almond before he goes.